Okay, I got the arm rail steam bent and I've got all the holes drilled in the arm rail now. Now the next thing I need to do, and this is really what separates the average chairs from the world-class chairs. I know that these connections right here look like it's just a cylinder going into a cylinder mortise, but it's not actually the case. And I don't like to do them like that because I don't think the longevity is as good as the way I do it now. So I'm going to explain to you how I do these. I even got the board here and I'm going to draw it. It might be a little bit easier to understand if I draw it. If this was the diameter all the way down, then if I stuck it into the cylinder mortise, then it was just slide back and forth. And you can see it would just slide back and forth, and you can see that it just slides and there's nothing holding it. So one thing that I do is I actually put a shoulder on the spindle. What this shoulder does is the shoulder actually gives it a stop point. So when it sits on there, there's no possible way that it could slide any further down. So it could still come up, but it definitely can't come down. There's no possible way, because the diameter here is actually larger than the diameter of the cylinder. So now I'm going to drive a wedge into the top of this, and it's going to flare the top, and then it's going to hold it in that dimension. So it's almost like an hourglass shape. I don't need to glue the spindle to the arm rail, but I do glue the wedge into the spindle, and then it's a permanent joint. There's no movement. It can never move. There's just no possible way. Another way to make sure I get a real good flare at the top of this is I actually flare the top of the mortise here. So actually the top of this mortise is actually larger in the X dimension than it is the Y dimension, because I take the rat tail file and I file a flare in it. And I'm going to show you on the board a little bit more about that. Okay, here it is on paper. So this here is the spindle, and then this here is to represent the arm rail. And this is the mortise that's drilled into the arm rail. And you can see here that it's just a cylinder and this is another cylinder. And again, that'll just permanently slide. But the first thing that I want to do is I actually want to make so the spindle underneath the arm rail, I actually want to make this diameter a little bit larger, so that the spindle is actually going to sit inside this. It's going to slide up into the mortise and it's going to stop because it can't go any further. So that's going to give me stability in that dimension. It definitely can't slide down. So in order to prevent the arm rail from coming up now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flare the top of the arm rail like this. So instead of being a cylinder, it's almost shaped like an ice cream cone now. And now when I drive a wedge, it's going to flare the top of the spindle to sit up against these walls. And now there's nowhere for the spindle to move. There's no possible way that the spindle could move. And it takes a long time for me to make the chairs like that and to make the connections like that. I mean, I know it would be a lot easier just to make a cylinder and slide that up into there, but I want my chairs to last for 300 years. You know, these chairs were invented in 1750, 1790. And this chair actually was invented in 1790 in New York City, and there's still some around. Some of the very well built ones are still around to this day, and I want to exceed that. That's almost 300 years that those chairs have lasted, and I want to exceed that. You know, and in order to do that, I cannot cut any corners at all. I have to take all their ideas and improve on them. So that's exactly what I'm doing, and I think that this is a definite good way to improve on their ideas. And you can see here with this chair, you can see the wedges driven in through the top. See, and then that just makes it an ice cream cone shape, and it's permanently attached. There's no way for it to slide. And if you actually look at the handrail, the arm rail joint here, this actually is more like an hourglass shape, and I actually drive 2 wedges into that just to get that flare a little bit more. If you can see this one, you can definitely see the 2 wedges. That's maple wedges and a maple arm rail, so it's kind of hard to differentiate, but you can tell there.